I wanted to know what useful information do scientists gather from tracking Sora rails?
Ooh, what useful information. Outstanding. Let's find out from Greg Kearns.
Very good question. The radio telemetry that we use, which was similar to Chris Swartz for the turtles, except we use ours on a much broader, longer scale. We've actually tracked these birds at night while they're migrating all the way down to southern United States, to Georgia. Some of these birds have flown 600 miles in just a 10-hour period at night, which is amazing, flying over 60 miles an hour. We know now that the wind aids them, northwest winds, cold fronts help them make their migration. So that's one of the neat things. We know that they live about 2 years, some maybe 3 or 4, 6 years might be absolute near the top of their lifespan for them. But that's one of the, how long they stay here, 4 to 6 weeks, we know that, while they're fattening up on the wild rice in this marsh. Just wanted to show briefly right here a comparison of two birds. These are two different rails. This one we see here is a Virginia rail on my right hand. The Virginia rail has the long beak. You can see compared, just grabbed after the Sora, they're more aggressive. The Virginia eats mostly invertebrates, and you can see that long bill I talked about used as a long tweezer to probe in the mud to get small invertebrates. And the Sora at the same time is mainly a seed eater. So these two birds live in the same kind of habitat but eat totally different things. They have coloration is similar. They have similar long legs, long toes that allow them to walk through the wetlands with great ease and squeeze through the vegetation, but their diets are totally different.
Wow, that kind of makes it so that these guys living in the same place, but they're not competing against each other, right?
Not really. That's correct. The Soras, though, outnumber the Virginias here probably 15 or 20 to 1, though, in these marshes from our banding operation, just in the sheer numbers we've caught. And the Sora has a much longer migration. Some of them, as I said, ranging from Canada all the way down to South America and Venezuela and Colombia and even Brazil. But several thousand miles, some of them will fly. The Virginia, much shorter. Many of these Virginias will stay here for the winter. The Sora will leave here for the winter. They will be long gone after they fatten up on the wild rice here.
Obviously, this is a very important place for them during their migration.
Yes, it is. And you saw the challenge. The number one challenge was how to capture them. And we tried mist netting at night. We used night vision equipment trying to find their habits. And we know that they come in during the evening. They're flying into this area, arriving from the northern Canadian marshes to come here and find the rice. One of the biggest mysteries is how do these birds find this marsh, flying hundreds of miles from Canada, coming here to stay for 4 to 6 weeks and fatten up on this rice? How can they find this in the darkness, having never been here? That is really one of the great mysteries about these birds. We think they navigate using stars. I told you they are able to utilize the right wind conditions to gain a tailwind so they can go farther in one night than they would without a wind at all. Some of them normally fly only 30 miles an hour, but with that tailwind of 30 miles an hour, they can fly up to 60. So believe it, yeah, from here to Georgia in one night, an amazing thing. So we've tried flying in a plane, keeping with them, even trying to track them out to the Outer Banks. We believe they go out over the ocean and come back, and they're really at the mercy of the winds, and that also will affect the survival of these birds. The migration is the most challenging part of this bird's life cycle in terms of surviving and making it through the next year to breed again.
We've got a question from Baseline Middle School. How do you keep track of migration routes of the birds, and how do you keep track of where they go?
Well, using the radio telemetry, again, with the small transmitter that we have here, we are able to track them 25 miles. This tiny little transmitter has the technology attached to the bird to track it almost 25 miles away. And that's how we would set up a network of volunteers, college students, and other people interested in terms of down the coast to help follow their route. Somebody basically every 25 miles along the route. And we kind of guessed at it, and that helped. Also having this band on the leg. I had a lady call me in Florida who found this band and found the number and contacted the government, and they in turn contacted me from the USGS at Patuxent Research Center and gave us the information that this lady had found this rail in her yard 750 miles from here. So that's how we track these birds, and otherwise it's very difficult.
All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about their food, and one of the most important things that they come here for, that wild rice. Obviously that's a problem, and obviously that's something that I hear tell you've been doing a lot of work on too.
Yes, the wild rice marshes here are unique. Jug Bay once had the largest wild rice marshes in the whole, in Maryland, and one of the largest in the mid-Atlantic region. And these wild rice marshes here, being so unique, are one of the most productive wetland habitats there are that you can find anywhere. As you're looking at right now, you're seeing wild rice, the seed heads or panicles of wild rice. There are literally 1,000 seeds average per panicle or per seed head of this rice. And in nature, there's no better food for seed-eating birds than this plant. It's about 80-some% carbohydrate, about 12% protein. So these birds, if you eat a lot of carbs, you're going to gain weight, and that's exactly what these soras are doing. Some of these literally are doubling their body weight in a 4-week period to gain weight, to make this migration. If they don't get it here, many of them will not finish their migrations or survive their migrations. Here you can see a little closer look of some of the seed heads, some that have opened up already, and some that these are unripe seed heads you see here now. The rice is still in the green stage, the seeds are undeveloped. But these soras came in here by the hundreds of thousands, we believe, to feed on this rice, and because there just aren't many places along the mid-Atlantic. It's a fairly rare wetland plant, but very crucial to the survival of these birds. And we believe, because of the decline of this wild rice here in Jug Bay over the last 20 years, mainly due to the resident Canada geese becoming more numerous here. Geese have been introduced here by man and have just reproduced in large numbers. They're grazers, and they literally eat this rice out of existence. And this is one of the reasons we believe the Sora Rail, along with other species that depend on the rice, are declining in large numbers.
Well, what can be done to kind of protect some of that and to make it so that these little guys that are flying so far up and down the eastern seaboard have got some food when they stop here?
What we're working on right now, studying the Sora Rail, has actually led us to a whole new project, and that is restoration of the wild rice. At first, we had to figure out what was happening to it. Through some special research we've done here, through cooperation with the USGS and Mike Karamis, a biologist at Patuxent Research Center, he and I worked on a project excluding wild rice with these special wire enclosures, and we found that these resident geese were eating it, and they have literally wiped out hundreds, if not thousands, of acres of rice in this area over the last decade. And here you can see some of the large stands of rice. Here's one of our circles right now. That's an area showing that we have actually enclosed with wire, planted the seed, and you can see outside there's nothing that survived. The geese have literally eaten everything outside. You can see water lilies around the base. Here's another area right here. You can see fencing in the foreground and wild rice plants that we hand planted individually within the inside of it. We utilize volunteers and college students. We hire for this, and it's been very successful. Here you can see the 2x4-inch welded wire. It's vinyl coated so it doesn't rust away, can stay up for several years, and eventually we'll remove it. And then this is what we hope to see, is a beautiful stand of rice so dense that you literally can see only 5 or 6 feet into it. These plants are 10 feet tall. They require great amounts of nutrients such as nitrogen, and there's literally 5 to 6 tons per acre of seed produced in these plants and these stands that you see that are this dense. So it really is an incredibly reproductive plant, and its strategy of surviving is producing tons of seed because everything eats it, from the soras to red-winged blackbirds by the millions to bobolinks and waterfowl, thousands of ducks and geese. So yeah, so this is a good example. By fencing it in and reseeding it in the spring and April and reducing the number of resident Canada geese, we believe we can restore these wetlands to once the fantastic beauty and the wild rice marshes that we once had here.
All right, now you were talking about eating the wild rice and all that stuff. We had another question in here talking about predators. Is there anything that eats the Sora Rail?
Yes, there are a few predators out there. I know that occasionally a red-tailed hawk or a marsh hawk or harrier will take these rails during the day. A great horned owl will take them during the night when they're roosting up in the vegetation because their vision is so good, but also animals such as a mink or weasel out in the marsh will catch them often at night, or even raccoons when they're on their roost site. But what we've learned from the radio telemetry is that they are very well protected in this marsh. The telemetry has shown us that very few of the 50 or 60 birds we fitted with transmitters here died during their stay here. They are just extremely well protected in these dense marshes, totally adapted to this habitat, and are able to evade predators for the most part.
So we're going to go ahead and let this little guy go, and then he can evade us. So everybody who's watching, watch close, because I got a feeling when it's time for him to go, I'm going to get out of the way. I got a feeling when it's time for him to go, he's going to go. All right. Here he goes. There he goes. There he goes.
By studying a bird species such as this, a famous naturalist, Roger Tory Peterson, once said that birds are the litmus paper of the environment. And the Sora is just one of these little test indicators, a litmus paper that literally tell us what is going on in the environment around us. They help us understand it better. And so by studying this one small piece of this ecological puzzle here, we're able to see the relationship between wild rice and the birds, and how everything, you pull one thing away and the puzzle will begin to fall apart. You take one piece out one at a time, and eventually you'll see a collapse of an ecosystem. And that's what studying these birds and the rice and the interconnectedness between them will point out for us in terms of helping preserve wetlands as unique as Jug Bay.